Welcome everyone to Non-Productive's covering of Wheel of Time, the Amazon original series. The first 3 episodes, we're going to go full spoilers for this. I have, of course, Frank, your pal, your buddy. I'm here with a cast of good friends that are we're gonna geek out about Wheel of Time. I have a confession to make before we begin. I sadly, about 5 minutes into watching the first episode, realized, I've never actually read any of these books. I thought I did. The cover is emblazoned in my memory, the cover of The Eye of the World with the folks on horseback, but I've never. So it was experiencing this for the first time for me. It's that's the cover, exactly. But I'm here with experts, people who've actually read the books and watched the show. We're just going to talk about those first 3 episodes. Let's do a quick introduction of Natty Bumper Car, old friend, old pal. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into this series.
Howdy, gang. So yeah, me, Natty Bumper Car. I growing up read a lot of fantasy and stuff, and kind of was of age when these came out. In 1990, I think Eye of the World came out, and I would have been a sophomore in high school because I'm remarkably old. And I think I just stumbled upon. I worked in a comic book store, and I think it was there, and I found it and just read it, and then kind of stumbled my way through the books. Read all of them. Even had issues. I mean, like a lot of issues, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But kind of stuck with it through highs and lows, and I'm excited for the show.
You shared a wonderful little story at the beginning that I would be remiss not to remind you. You didn't know when there were sequel books coming out for at least the first few.
Oh,
no
yeah.
idea.
I know this was in the dark ages before the internet, and I mean the way you would find media, especially I was an only child, so I didn't have like an older brother or sibling to say, "Hey, dork, read this" or whatever. I would just, and I grew up in a small town in Georgia. And so, like, there not a wealth of culture going on or access to stuff, and so everything was just stumbled upon. And then, like, another book would come out a few years later, and I was just like, "What? It just keeps going, and going and going." What felt like most of my life, this book series, and eventually Robert Jordan, the author, died. And it was a real like crossroads in my life where I felt like, wait, like what? It doesn't. I need things to be finished. My wife calls me a completionist because I need things to be complete, done, and so it's a real OCD thing, I think. And it was a good sword of Damocles hanging above me, and then some other gent hopped in and turned the last book, I think, into like another 20 books. So
yeah, Robert Jordan planned ahead at least and had someone covering him, so that he was looking out for you.
Appreciate it.
RJ. All right, next, my next old buddy, old pal, Judd, please.
Hey, my name is Judd. I publish a podcast called Daydreaming About Dragons, where I talk about tabletop role-playing games and also the media that, kind of nerdy media generally, or art in general, and how that inspires and what I take from those things and bring to the table. And I started reading at about 91, and I think a couple books were out already when I started reading. So maybe 91 or 92, and was just really excited. And I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and I got farther than I thought. I got to about book 9, I think Winter's Heart, which is a little over 1 million words in.
Wow.
And I read the prologue, and I didn't remember any of the characters' names who were mentioned. And I was like, either he's introducing new characters or I remember nothing. Either way, I think I'm off this train now. And I stopped. I think if the internet had existed like it does now, and I could have just gone and read a synopsis and just reviewed, I might have finished and gone through. But I tried to reread it years later, in my 40s, and there was a scene where a male practitioner of the One Power was describing how to use the One Power, to how he interacted with the One Power to some ladies who were also One Power practitioners, and he described how he dominated it and submitted it to his will, and then the ladies were like, "Oh, well, we have to submit to it and be submissive." And I managed not to throw. Thanks to a loved one, I managed not to throw my Kindle across the room because I found that pretty frustrating. But yeah, I'm excited about the TV show. I think sometimes those things that are kind of guilty faves can make the best types of adaptations. So I'm excited.
Yeah, where we get into this, we're going to be talking about what we hope an adaptation will do for a story that many people hold dear. Lauren, let's my new buddy, new pal. Lauren, introduce yourself.
I'm Lauren. Never done a podcast, never done anything like this, but I really love Wheel of Time. I've loved it since high school. My friends and I would read it and trade books, and we were super excited about it. Joined the fan club online. If there was cosplay at the time, we would have cosplayed. We definitely, for Ren Fair, like dressed up in our Aja colors. Yeah, so we were very cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Very cool.
And so that was like 2005, 2006, and then Robert Jordan died, and we kind of stopped reading it. Just because it took a while, and we were teenagers, and we forgot about it. And then we got back into it, and I got back into it. I don't know if my friends did. They might have given up on it. But reread the first couple, first dozen, and then got through the last
couple.
Yeah.
Wow.
more than a couple. But finally read them all. Can't say that I remember what happened in the last couple, but I'm sure I'll reread it.
That's one thing. So I say I'm a big fantasy fan, and I love daydreaming about dragons. I love thinking about fantasy worlds and imagining how the stories would go in my head. But the one thing I never quite understood about really fantasy readers is how they could commit to these huge series that are just dozens of books long. I could barely finish one book if I'm lucky. And knowing on the onset, like Natty, you didn't know there was going to be, nobody knew there was going to be 14 books in the series, but like even when nowadays they'll publish books saying this is the first of a series, and I'm like, I can't commit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was just looking at the Wikipedia, and I have now learned that the first book came out in 1990, January. The second book, November 1990, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then 91, 92, 93, 94. So he was just like cranking these things out. Like in my mind, it was just like there was years in between, but maybe it just took me that long to find them or something. I don't know. Well, a lot of writing.
Yeah, it's impressive. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. I like if you enjoy the commitment that is, a well to revisit over and over again, that's great. But for me, it's just shocking.
Wait, so, what Aja was Lauren? That's what we have to know.
I was going to ask that too.
Brown.
All right. As a librarian, I salute you.
Yeah.
Oh, that is. Yeah. That's like a Hufflepuff.
Yeah. Looking at it now, yeah.
Worlds are colliding.
cross the streams, which is in fact now is crossing the streams. Okay, so when I first, I want to ask what everybody's sort of expectation for this Amazon series, which we've only heard about, I think, for like a year or two. I can't. Well, time means nothing now, so I don't know. But I don't remember hearing about this for a very long time. Amazon, of course, gobbling up properties like everybody else is, and Wheel of Time has a lot to work on. If it lands, if the series does well, they've got seasons worth of stuff to go through. So what were your expectations, or what are your expectations for this show? I'm going to answer that first because I feel like I have to back up my little admission. I too was recommended this book quite often in high school by people who said this is a great book, and they probably even try to lend me copies, don't have you. And I really did think I had read the first book. And it's possible I did, and like everyone else here, forgot most of the elements of it. But when I was watching the show, I had no clue. So here's where I admit my privilege. Didn't realize it was such a female-centric storyline in many respects. And now that I think back of the people who recommended this, guess who they were most of the time? It was most of my girl pals, right? People who are into fantasy and also women who were trying to tell me, Frank, this story is different. And I was going, yeah, it's different. It's good. Yeah, the dragons here are cooler. Or whatever. Are the elves taller? What's going on with this world? Didn't get it for like 20 years until I'm sitting there watching episode 1 going, oh, that's why they wanted me to read the book. So yeah, I had apparently no expectations for this show. I just wanted a good fantasy romp. Anybody else? What about you folks? What were you hoping for? Lauren, you were into this for quite a while. What were you hoping out of this series?
I am interested in the magic. It's completely different than well, I wouldn't say completely different, but it is a different idea and concept of how people deal with magic, and that's what and the type of things that they can do with the power. I am very looking forward to that. In the shows, it was kind of weird to see for the first time. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of cheesy looking, but I'm like, but no, it makes sense, and I was okay with it. I was like, okay, I think I can handle this. It makes sense the way that they did it, for me at least, even though it's still a little.
There was a lot of like force blasting and including wind lasers at things that conceptually though, the theories of what they're playing with is pretty, I would say maybe unique at the time or rare at the time, and probably better executed now in many books. But yeah, I could see that. I could see why you would be interested in that. Judd, how about you? What are you hoping for?
So I'm of two minds after watching the 3 episodes and then watching them again to kind of prep up for this. On one hand, I just kind of want some wonderment. I just want to see some cool shit that I remember from when I was 14. Like I would really just like to see some cool shit. So there is definitely that aspect of it. And then there is also the aspect of I would really like the concept of the gender binary, that this cosmology just has right down to its core to be really blown up and to kind of annihilate that in a way that still works, still makes the cosmology work, but says like, yeah, that thing where we divvy it up between 2 parts, that's an artifice. Like that's a human creation, and we've made that. And I want them to. I just want that, and I'm nervous that this could become like a real. It's funny we should bring Hogwarts and Hufflepuff into it so early, because I think it could really become a Rowling turf rallying point, and I would love to see it be like just an abyss of misery for those folks. So there's that. So there's like the 14-year-old me who just wants to see cool shit, like show me more Shadar Logoth type stuff that just makes me feel like I'm 14 again. And then there's the adult me who's like, and politically I want to eviscerate my enemies, and I want to see this just destroy people who are shitty to other people. So there's that.
Yeah, I think I don't see how you can't do both. You would have to get both. Right. For it to be really impactful, it has to be awesome looking. Right. It has to be like a story. Everybody wants to watch this. Everybody's talking about it. Yep. And as a side effect, it's just like, let's spin this up. And the thing is, I knowing nothing about how the series goes, my expectation in 2021 watching the first 3 episodes was, well, this can't this can't be accurate. The
Right.
mythology they're building up for the way power works and is engendered, it can't be accurate. But these books were published more than 30 years ago,
Right.
so maybe it is accurate. I don't know, and I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Natty, big shoes
Yeah.
to fill. What are you expecting?
So, real quick, a couple of things, Judd, that you mentioned that I was impressed with the show was the diversity of the cast.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Because when you read the books, these were all just white people,
Yep.
and and not a lot. I mean, Rand had red hair. Basically, that was his defining, and then you go to all the different places, and there's different, I think, races that come in with the sea folk and all that stuff. There's sea folk, no.
Spoiler.
But I was very impressed with that. I made the mistake after watching the show, knowing that we were going to speak, of reading way too many articles. And when I say articles, a lot of them are really just blog posts on sites that have ads that are paying for it, of very angry people, angry at the diversity, angry at some of the things that they added into the story, which I didn't. I understood what they were serving, how they served the story, but I think coming into it, and Judd, again, what you were saying about there being some real problematic things with the initial story, especially. I used to read a lot of Piers Anthony books,
Oof.
and those are horrible.
Yeah.
Like those were growing up. Like I would be like 8, 9, 10, and just pouring through these things, not even knowing what I was reading.
Yep.
But I still have these books, and a few years ago, I had a long commute, and I was just like, oh, I'll just read these books I've already got. I don't remember them, and I'm reading, and I'm just like, wow, how am I not the worst misogynist ever? These are terrible books to read.
Yeah.
And so the Jordan stuff, bad, not as bad. And so I'm hoping, I think it's gonna be so difficult for them to break the kind of the binary of
Right.
that's been established, because it's so core. Anyway, what did I expect from this? Nothing. I saw whispers that there was a show years ago that some company had the rights to it and had made a pilot, and
I remember that. You're right.
Yeah,
it was
it was
really weird pilot that they just
and I
rights.
saw, I don't know if I saw the whole thing or if an 8-minute snippet of it or whatever, and it was really terrible, like such low production, and kind of I had it in my head that, and I'd read things that would say it was unfilmable, and I was like, well, okay, well, the scope of it, I don't know how they would do this.
She big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And there's a bajillion locations and characters, and it's not a thing where like you would go to one place and you could spend a whole season there, because they're all there, you're jumping everywhere, and I was just like, they can't do this. But then I saw that Amazon had bought it, and I was like, all right, they want a
Let
Game of
Bezos
Thrones
put
type.
some billions into this.
Yeah,
He's going to
right.
space. Screw
He's
him.
going to space.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to make my dreams and I'm living in a world where I'm seeing all of growing up in a comic book store, all of my dreams from growing up are on, they're happening.
Yeah.
In ways that I never and they're dominating pop culture.
Yeah.
In ways that I never what? I'm going to see a Moon Knight show here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Like, what? And so then I kind of was just like, all right, maybe this can happen.
Yep.
And then I watched it, and we can get to that.
There was a moment where I knew that our subculture had been totally mainstream when my cousin, who was an actor in New York City, was talking about another actor, and she was like, yeah, I mean, he was on Broadway, but he got offered Professor X, and you just can't turn that down. So, I mean, of course he went for it. And I was like, I can't believe that sentence exists. Like, I can't believe that an actor, like a professional actor, can look at someone else and say that sentence, and it actually means something. Like, you all know who Professor X is. You know what a danger room is. Like, it's
the
just
meta
wild.
context of that. It's not just take the role. Obviously, it's that another actor would be like, yeah, oh, obviously you would take that role. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. A good friend of mine, Jesse Barufi, says that the fact that geek culture won the culture war is a monkey's paw wish come true.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, because of all these articles Natty was talking about, you're like, every hot take is a unqualified mess. It's just people just spitting out whatever they think will get, I guess, clicks. Maybe if we're fortunate, that's what that's all about. Yeah,
rage clicks. It's all I can figure. Like,
hopefully.
I was reading a lot of stuff and I was just like, why are you so angry? Like,
Yeah.
you get to watch your stuff. It might not be exactly what you have in your brain, but that's not how the world works. Like, it's neat.
But
Right.
also, I think in the books they talk about the people in Eamon's Field being darker hair, darker skin. That's why Rand stood out. So it's not like they're going against what's in the books. Like that's in the books.
Right.
You just gotta.
And I could almost give people a pass on the question of gender and magic in this world, because that's kind of core to the way this book is dealing with it, right? That's just I'll put a pin on why I give them a pass in a moment. But like when questions about what a character's appearance looks like, and we're on the scale of what race they would appear as, it's unlikely this book had core to its, or this series of books, core to its values was this character has to look white. You don't understand. Forget about anything else that's going on in the plot. This character has to look really white. I doubt that's the way Robert Jordan had written it, but it's apparently the way they appears in many people's minds. In terms of the way gender is played out in this, it's in a way I feel almost sorry for the books that have come before, because they don't have a choice but to be written in the time that they were written, and this is sort of why I don't like that so much of geek culture is based on IP, because I would like to see the further adventures in this world, new stories that could happen in the Wheel of Time that can maybe re-examine some of the stuff we've already established. But I don't know if you could do that without actually laying out the groundwork first. Wheel of Time is not as ubiquitous as, let's say, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or whatever, where it had a recent, play in pop culture. So I get that they need to put the groundwork down, but eventually, hopefully, they'll be able to iterate and spin off of it. Let's talk about the 3 episodes now that we've gotten about 20 minutes into this. All I'm going to say for the first episode is that I did not. It was a hard watch for me. I did not expect what I was watching at all, and that kind of threw me for a loop. I spent a decent amount of that time questioning why I ignored this series for so long, that again so many female fans of the genre were urging me to read, but mostly it was a lot of fantacrap, right? There was a lot of stuff to follow, and this sounds ridiculous. It sounds like an old man talking to you about your hobbies. Like, I don't know what that Dungeons and whatever thing you play is. But I could not follow. I left it with a renewed respect for Peter Jackson. Maybe not so much the Hobbit, but like the Lord of the Rings. In a few moments in the very beginning of the first Fellowship movie, you're like, oh, this is homey and this is nice, and there's a magical world, and there was a war and it was fought, and now something's happening, and it catches you up really quickly. And I didn't find the artistry in that first episode at all, so it was everything went over my head. As 3 people who knew the story somewhat, what did you think? Was I alone in that?
You go, Lauren. You go.
For me, it was just a reminder, because it had been so long since I had read them, and I'm like, oh, okay. So there is a lot, but there's so much more.
I knew
and
it.
yeah, and the way that I would look at the books. I would read a book and I'd be like, okay, what's the one big thing that happened? Because a whole lot happened, but what's the one big thing? Okay, that happened. And then I had to go to the next book. Okay, what's the one big thing that happened in that one? So that's what I feel like the show is like too. Like, okay, what happened? They got attacked. Okay, that's it. And then everything else is important, but there's one big important thing that happened, and
the
that's
TV
what,
guide summary, the little thing that says this is the one where they meet each other. This is the one where they all get attacked by Trollocs, which is a horrible name for a monster. I'm sorry.
Trollocs.
The whole time I was like, what?
But that's exactly what I saw in my head.
You really?
Yeah, I thought they looked great.
They looked.
Yeah, they did. They were pretty graphic.
And I don't know if you will get this reference, but so there were the stand-up big-faced horn guys, but they were also kind of
like the froggies.
But yeah, they were kind of, well, no, they were like berry, like a bear, not a berry, but bear-ish creatures with dark fur that were kind of loping along on all fours.
Yeah.
And they reminded me so much of the March of the Wooden Soldier. I mean, they're not at all, but in my mind, I was just like, oh.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Those things, nightmare fuel.
They're the most terrifying. And they showed that on, like, I think, is it Thanksgiving? Like, is that tomorrow?
It's going to be, we're recording this Thanksgiving Eve, which I didn't realize was a thing. But
and
yes,
it'll be on the TV. And I remember my children walking by and going like, no, Dad, no. Like, we don't.
Troll things from Babes in Toyland, March of the Wooden Shoulder, whatever, were terrifying, almost as terrifying as I believe it was Felix the Cat, or maybe Tom or Jerry. There's a cat and a mouse in that. Watch it. There's a cat and a mouse in this. There's like, it's a guy in a costume, and then like maybe a monkey. I think it's a monkey in a costume for a mouse.
Like
it's ridiculous. Yeah. I seem completely insane. We've gone off topic. Yes. So I'm really excited to hear that this was close to what you pictured in your head.
There are a couple things I wanted to look cooler. I've got to admit. I thought I liked Moraine's outfit. I thought a lot of the clothes of the villagers looked a little LARPy. Like sometimes I was like, it kind of looks like
a Ren Fair.
It kind of, totally Ren Fair, LARP, absolutely. And I wanted, this is going to sound really corny, but I'm going to go with it. I wanted the swords to look cooler. Like they're just kind of katana. It's like they're like, it just looked like the swords that people use when they like run into a 7-Eleven because they have a drug problem and they want to like hold the place up. And I was just like, it's just a katana with a heron on it. Really? Like no, I'm excited about the heron. I mean, totally excited. Oh, the heron has meaning, Frank. Do not diss the heron.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the heron blade is a big deal. And the fact that his dad randomly has one.
You nerds. I love this. I love being overwhelmed by nerds.
I wanted the heron marked blades to look cooler because Lan has one and Rand has one because of his dad. And when they took them out, and I was like, y'all just went with just straight katana, huh? Like that's it? Like nothing. Like not even a cool handle. Like it's just
like Crawl or whatever. No, there was some
Crawl had a pretty cool one.
But I think it's based on the people who are holding them. I think probably spoilers, but there are other people who have the heron blades who are a bit more showy.
Maybe.
So if you look at Tam and Lan,
he was hiding that's interesting.
All right.
So this. I love this. I love having geeks overwhelm me by the geekness.
They don't have swords, so I mean, just the fact that they had swords were a big deal.
This is also reminding me of my childhood, like being around people who were talking about something that I didn't really understand, and I'd be like, this is exciting, This is my first experience. This was my intro to D&D, where I was like, I watched that cartoon. Game? What are you? Yeah, okay. What's this?
Game?
There's a game involved in this cartoon. All right, but like so little pieces like the heron blade. The people I'm thinking of, my friends who had told me about this book series went on. We would play D&D together, and they had a heron blade.
I drew herons in my
notebook. Context for what that was about, and now I know. Wow,
look at that.
That's so fun. Oh
Yeah.
man, there's like a 20-year-old dot got connected.
So I think I like to, I guess, tie things. So
Yeah.
what you said, Frank, when I was just kind of the same, I don't know if it was Frank or who, but there was no subtlety or artistry behind the explaining of things.
Yeah.
Like I read the stuff and I'm watching it. And so I had just finished watching Fargo and like the last season of it and it's completely different, obviously, but like just the way it's shot and the way the frames that they use and the way they push the story with how they frame things. I didn't feel like there was that level of cinematic artistry to this.
Yeah.
And it felt kind of like LARPing, like you said, like it felt a little CW to me. And I could tell they had a lot of money because it was gorgeous, like the environments they were in, and they spent money on the sets. But it felt like the visual storytelling and the pacing and the cuts, the edits and everything. I was just like, man, they're so close to having a really cool show here.
Yeah.
But like there was like a lot of emotional like drops that are supposed to impact you or affect you, and maybe they'll come up later in the show or the seasons. But they were just like, this happened, this happened, this happened. You're like, well, I don't feel anything. You're going too fast for me.
But I felt like that in the book, really.
Oh,
because you meet all these people and there's so many people, and it's just like, okay, so why should I care?
Yeah.
And it's not until book 3 or 4 where you really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the book is worse actually because it starts like 1,000 years before.
It does.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The book starts with like the dragon breaking the world.
Yeah.
So you're like in a palace that you don't know, that you're never going to see again, seeing a guy who you're never going to see again.
Is it Luce Theron or
yeah,
and then you flash forward to Emmons Field, and you're supposed to care. I'm sorry, Lauren, you go.
Oh no, I agree with that, and I think when you get to Camlin and spoilers, when you get to other areas,
we have an annoying graphic for that. Hold on, we made this a while ago.
There we go.
No, there's a thing. That doesn't matter. This whole thing. We're just talking about the first 3 episodes. You're not gonna remember it anyways. Don't worry about it.
I think there's a whole lot. They have to introduce everyone, and I think it's gonna take a whole season just to introduce the important people. Really.
Anytime an adaptation happens, you are an artist putting your fingers on a work, and no matter what, you're gonna have to make this your own, right? There's no way it's not a live stream of someone reading the book to you. So the fact that they take some liberties with it, I think is gotta work in their favor.
Yeah. And I think when you said Peter Jackson, what he did with the Lord of the Rings was so stunning. Like he took this massive thing and was able to adapt it to the movie screen in a way that I thought was just so wonderful. But then it's so funny because then he did The Hobbit, and I thought he really blew it. Like
by using the same formula.
Yeah,
incredibly. Same formula, and it didn't
But I
work.
think The Hobbit, you're dealing with one kid's book.
Yeah.
That he added to, whereas Lord of the Rings, there's just so much more there that you could work with.
And I think I think what Peter Jackson did really well is he was like, these are the themes we're going to work with, and every scene is going to be about this. And so you got this thing where when the ring was in a scene, it was bigger than everything else, and when it fell to the ground, you heard this thunk, and like that had meaning. Whereas in The Hobbit, all themes were off. And there was even one scene I remember seeing someone on a YouTube video where they play dramatic music when the dwarves are doing something, and it's actually the old Ringwraith music that from Lord of the Rings, and I was like,
Oh.
oh, what a gaffe! Like,
Yeah.
what a mistake. And so anyway, and I think, I mean, we're looking, we just talked about how many words this damn thing is. I think it's hard. You can't look at something with 4,410,000 words and be like, all right, these are the themes. Like, it's very difficult. I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's much more difficult to look at 4 million words and be like, all right, these are the themes we're going to tease out. And that's why these scenes are going to look this way and that way. Because
Right. And unless you're doing what Lauren suggested, or what Lauren does when she read it, which is, this book is about this thing.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can do it. But then,
right.
I don't, it feels to me that Robert Jordan wrote these almost like, I was going to say romance novels, maybe a little bit romance novel, maybe a little bit like serialized fiction, where like the push really was get the next book. The story continues in the next book, as opposed to Lord of the Rings, which, I mean, arbitrarily was 3 books because the publisher was like, what the hell?
Right.
This is too big for 1. We're going to do this as 3. So I mean, it's all different things. And I actually kind of enjoyed the fact that perhaps the director of this first episode wasn't necessarily to blame as much as the source material may have been to blame for why it wasn't as majestic and clearly thrown together.
Lauren, you said, I think.
Oh, it was just I think Robert Jordan had the idea of making 13 books. I think that was, and so he knew that he had a lot to go through.
Yeah, he was like, I could do this.
Yeah, and out of those millions of words you're talking about, so much of it was about the lace on the bodice. I don't know, bodice, sure.
Bodice.
And and I don't. This is not a spoiler at all, but and I'm going to say your name wrong because I've really been introduced to how wrong I've been saying all these words all my life.
Yes.
But Nynaeve, right? Nynaeve, yeah. But one of her main character traits in all these books is that she will yank her braid. And I remember, Judd, to your point about just terrible depictions of women. It was like she'd go off in a huff and pull her braid at land. And I was just like, that's weird. Why are we doing that?
And I love some things about the first episode that I really liked.
Yes.
Nynaeve as this strong Black woman fucking rocked my world. Like, I was just like, yes, like, more of that, please. And I love that depiction of Nynaeve. I think the actor who's doing it is rocking it. And I really liked the women's circle test that Egwene goes through. And I mean, if you've got to show a metaphor for someone submitting to something greater than them, what an awesome, like, I don't know if it went full, like, wow, you made this feminist, but you did a damn good, you gave it a good shot. It was, I just thought it was really interesting and really cool. She washes up on shore and walks back into the bar and drinks with the ladies. And I liked it. I was down with it.
Especially when her dad comes up to her, and I just rewatched this tonight, and it was the just the emotional connection of the actors was very weird. But like, she walks in and this guy comes up and you're like, oh, who's this? And I don't know if they overdubbed it, but something about how he's like, my girl, or something like that. Like, less hands means less money and pints. And then the drunk woman comes over and grabs her, and it's just like, she's drinking with us tonight. And it was just like, oh, yeah. It was nice.
Yeah, I like that. I like that aspect of it. Anyway, the first episode wasn't. I didn't feel like it was as strong as the next two, but I pushed play and I kept going. So I don't, whatever that's worth.
And I think, smart move by releasing the first 3 episodes. I know it's not necessarily super atypical, but this is a big story. And if your first episode is just a bunch of like, this is the world and the way it was, and the dragon that broke the world and the thing happened, and I'm like, I am your bread and butter, and I'm not following this. I'm as geek as you could get.
I'm your target audience.
Yeah, please. Yeah. But the next 2 episodes really had a lot of good moments of them. A very strong open for the second episode, and I like that they are doing a wonderful job of, and my notes are kind of all over the place because I watched them all at once, but I think they do a wonderful job of keeping the mystery of who this person is, who this reincarnated Messiah / Antichrist, this bad news bear that's sort of around there. And I love it. I think they did. That is where there's a lot of artistry in keeping the who it is and who could be the bad person or the
Well, so
important
since you don't know
person.
the story, do you have a guess as to who the Dragon Reborn could be?
All right. So
Mm.
this would require me to remember people's names. So the candidates are Rand, who I know as the I think my wife said, like, oh, he's the white guy, so he's probably going to be him.
So for Rand, really quick, did
Yeah.
anybody else get a real Hayden Christensen vibe
Yes.
from him?
Hayden Christensen and what's the other one? We were discussing that. Oh man, I forget who else.
If it
But
occurs
yeah,
to you, just blur that
definitely.
out. So there's Rand, who definitely is the mold of the hero for this. There's Egwene, who just recently came into her powers. Right, that makes sense. Matt, who's probably the underdog because he's on the verge of being what, like his father, a jerk. Like that, no, that wasn't a jerk. It was effectively a jerk like his father. And then there's Perrin, who is, all I know from him so far is that he is he seems like, well, he's experienced the most trauma that he can show to everyone else. Like it is legitimate trauma from accidentally killing his wife, which I've heard isn't actually in the book, and this is a much more interesting way of doing it.
Not in the book.
Yeah.
I don't.
I was confused.
Yeah.
Of those four, just to quickly answer the question, I want it to be Matt. I want it to be Matt, even though I don't think it's going to be Matt. The answer, I think it's going to be Perrin, because I want to say that it's Rand, but I feel like that's got to be the MacGuffin, so it's going to be the next person over. So I think the story will say it's Perrin, but I want it to be Matt because Matt is interesting. Because as much of a bad guy as he is, he's just trying to look out for his sisters, and that's nice. So
the actor who plays Matt, I enjoy tremendously.
He's not in the second season,
but he's not in the second season. He's just something about him. The first episode I didn't really, but then like the more Matt I saw, I was just like, okay, yeah, that's Matt.
Yeah,
same. And I think
same.
I think Perrin is also very Perrin.
Yeah,
to me, and Egwene and.
Yep.
Even Rand. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job with the casting for the main.
Agreed.
Main
when they
core.
pulled that cast out of their episode 1 expository setting, it was interesting to see them interact with each other. They definitely feel like they have history. Even characters that just show up for a moment. The woman in the bar who attempts to seduce Rand. Like she actually does seem like she seems complex for a person who just is in league with the villains.
So
far,
because in the book she has about 20 pages to discuss like the whole scene. So
really, that's great. Well,
I didn't remember her from the book. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't remember.
I remember
cool.
her from the book. Yeah,
nice.
That's awesome. Well, that's cool that these actors do have a lot of reference material to go through.
Yeah. I feel like the show got me. Like I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm watching this now no matter what. Was when they went into Shadar Logoth, and I was like, I was a 13-year-old kid again. I totally was. I was like, oh, I'm in. I am watching every episode. Absolutely. I feel like a kid again. Like it's something about heading back in there and the Trollocs like refusing to go in and telling the story, and I really loved that. And like in the second episode, it was that moment of like don't touch anything, and of course someone's going to touch something. And then when they were singing the song and
the song was great.
Yeah, I liked it, and Moraine kind of gave the history behind it. And I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. That's a pretty good info dump. Good job, folks.
Much better job at an info dump there.
Yeah,
right?
I think in the second episode, they kind of started to figure that out. And
yeah,
like I think that's something that Robert Jordan really did that Tolkien kind of did, but like there's so much, it's steeped in so much history, everything. And so you see Shadar Logoth and you're like, and then you get the little background story, but you go inside and yeah, me too. That's where it was like, it felt like it was shot a little bit differently. It looked a little bit different. It didn't look like you were just in backlot woods almost. And I was just like, ooh,
yeah. They had something to say all of a sudden. It was like, oh yeah, this is a place where selfishness destroyed their, the greatest city in the world, and yeah, we can understand that, I think, right now. So yeah, it was,
and you started to see a real scale of the world,
right?
Like it pretty quickly was just like expanded this world like massively. I thought
my favorite part of the books was when he talked about the world before the breaking, and there's a whole lot of it, but when that was mentioned, I just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
So if there was a show that would ever be created, I would want it to be before the breaking, and because it is 100% different than what the world is now, and I'm excited to see that, because it was technologically, like the advancement was like on par with like what we have today almost. It was just spoiler-ish.
Isn't that what Game of Thrones is doing? Where like
I was about to say,
like I feel like if this hits and they get in it however many seasons out of it, that would be the next maybe logical iteration.
I think Lauren's hope is what a lot of Amazon executives are hoping, right? That this does well enough where they were going to get a prequel series, and then really,
how many seasons will it take to get through the books that are already there?
Oh my god! Well, it really just has to prove that it's a hit more. I mean, this is getting way out, but and then in that area, that's when you can really stretch your legs with things that Judd had brought up earlier about exploring this dynamic that may just be, or probably is, just artifice, even in their own world, and that would be fascinating to look at it and be like, no, this whole thing was just, it was always in your heads and it was always in your culture. Which is honestly, I gotta be honest, where my 2021 brain assumed this was going. I assumed it was going. At one point, we're gonna find out that none of this is based on reality.
I mean, and maybe it is.
Maybe it is. But yes, I think we've talked for quite a while now. It had a weak, maybe a little weak opening, but I think we are pretty well united on that. The last two episodes were pretty impressive. Are there any other moments that maybe we didn't touch upon that really sung out to you, Lauren?
Yeah, I want to get your opinion on the Red Aja hunting the male magic user or power user, just because, knowing what I know, I thought that was a good way for them to kind of broach the subject of that, because there's a whole lot there, and that's basically the whole story. So it was I liked how they did that.
Yeah, I love that they had like this unreliable narrator where like there's a guy next to him and you're like, oh, there's a guy next to him, and he turns out not to be real. That was a really cool,
reveal.
A really cool reveal, a really nice choice, and I hope we get a lot more of that as things soup up.
I think my only issue with it was its positioning in the story, because it was very much like, oh, who are these people? I will not see them again for a while at all. But it was a pretty way of instantaneously establishing that I did not know why people were recommending this story for me for so long. That's what it did for me. What else did you say?
Well, for me, just when I saw the men and they were running, and I'm like, oh, that's a weird outfit for them to wear. That kind of, it was like, oh, I don't know how that works, but okay, maybe maybe they look like Viking dirty men.
Yeah, like the beard and stuff. And
It was weird. Yeah.
That took me out of the story, those guys. And I mean, I keep complaining about the look, but like now that things are being shot on digital, you get that thing where everything is so crisp, like that the background is in focus as the people, and it looks a little cheap if it's not messed with a little bit or something. And if you watch Legion, that was another show where they would mess with the colors of sky or whatever, like, and it just gave it a visual depth that I'm going to keep complaining about that it was lacking.
This was a little flat. It seemed as if this was, I think the CW effect is pretty accurate, where like it feels like this was shot on budget in a short amount of time. They did a good job with wardrobing, but maybe it came from one closet. Yeah,
this is season 1, and they probably had this budget. They want to see how they're already working on season 2, so maybe like, I mean, I think they'll figure this stuff out. Is my hope.
And COVID, I don't know.
And COVID.
I wonder how much of that. Yeah,
that's interesting.
They were shooting in a bubble.
They were working on it before, but who knows? They probably just put it out there.
So you were talking about the red Ajas, Lauren. Now, how about the white cloaks?
I'm glad that came up. So for me, Amon, is it Amon Valda? Am I pronouncing it right? The person who is hunting the
he was
questioner?
A great actor.
Questioner. Yes, Abdul Salas. I'm calling him out by name because like the perfect mixture of intimidating, creepy, but not cartoonish, right? This seemed like a person who would exist in this world and has great motivation for the terrible things that they are doing, which I'm auto-completing in my mind. I'm like, all right, why would you be a questioner in this world? Why would you be a man who does not have magical powers, who goes out and tracks down and hunts women who do? And what could this mean about? So all the stuff in the background of the world is just flooding forward. And if this were a role-playing game, we'd be playing out what this actually means. Fortunately, this has already been written. So we're just going to find out what it means and how much of this is accurate. But just a wonderful portrayal for me.
Yeah, he had a gravity to him. Just like the way he delivered his lines. And I was just like, oh, okay, here we are. Yeah.
I, in the previews, I saw him and I'm like, oh, who's the guy wearing white? Like I completely forgot about white cloaks because they were they were so awful in my head, and just like I tried to push them out because they were negative, and I guess I completely forgot about them. And then I saw the show and I'm like, oh yeah,
oh no,
I have to remember them and everything that they do.
And they're oh, I'm sorry, go on.
No.
I feel like we've got like Chekhov's white cloak. It's so bleached clean that I feel like the director who eventually is like, and then there's a smudge of blood across it. It's just going to be this ridiculously overwrought metaphor. Like whatever it is going to, I hope it lands. Whatever it is, I hope it lands and lands well, because they clearly have gone so out of their way to make those cloaks so very white that
it must have been hell to shoot for that.
Right.
Or a lot of post-production. In the great villain checklist of things you want to do to show that your villain is a villain, or at least your scary guy is a scary guy, not necessarily a villain, have them eat a full bird. Always works.
That was very confusing. I was just like, what is happening? And then he said, I was just like, oh no, why did he eat a bird? Oh no.
I can't even remember where the other times I've seen it, but I know I've seen it where people are like, oh, this is a delicacy. You eat the full bird and you must cover your mouth so that God cannot see you, because it's in something. And I'm like, this is a power move. I'm going to do this at the next office meeting where people take off their masks for lunch. I'm going to be like, all right, full bird. That's it. I'm doing it.
How do you think Minus would take that?
He's done the full bird.
Yeah, I feel
it's like a rotisserie chicken. He's just like, I'm just
he's a full bird.
He's a full bird. Yeah.
What I was gonna say is, so we're 3 episodes in, and I think the White Cloaks is you have all the kids from Emmons Field, you have the Aes Sedai, you have the red and the blue, you have these White Cloaks, you have the men who can channel, you have the Trollocs, the
Voldemort.
eyeless, I guess
Yeah.
I forget what they're called,
Mydrol.
and what is it?
Mydrol.
Okay, and then whatever was it Shadow Logo, the little shadow we saw, but like already 3 episodes in, that's a lot of people to introduce, or like.
There's so much more.
And there's so
not
much
even
more.
remotely done. Yeah.
The bard character, the Gleeman.
Oh, Tom Maryland.
Tom.
We could probably do an episode on that.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
I thought the patches were on the outside. I got really confused. I'm like, where are the patches? And then he opened his cloak, and I'm like, oh, there they are. I'm like, oh no.
That's
I don't know if I like it on the inside.
So like I'm loving this vicariously for people who did truly love the series, and they seeing all these little things that are like, oh, this is bringing me back. That's awesome. None of this works for me. Like none of it carries me anywhere. When they go, I can't even remember the city, whatever the ghost city. We said the name of it a minute ago, and I've lost it. So the only thing I thought of was like, oh, that's like that place from Lord of the Rings where the ghosts are, and they're gonna recruit the ghosts. So it's weird how like it latches onto, in the absence of actual canon and text, it latches on to things that either it was inspired by or inspired it. So I'm like, oh, I think I know what's going to happen here.
Frank, of course, you speak like Robert Jordan's Old Tongue, so you'll just remember that Shadow Logoth means shadow waiting in the Old Tongue, and that way you'll never forget now.
There you go. Yeah, simple. Now I got it. Shadow waiting.
Simple mnemonic.
Oh my goodness, that's smart. There is Amazon has published apparently on online a glossary of terms and things you need to know to understand this. So like any good source, it has a terrible index. You just can't follow it. You don't know where anything is going. So, but yeah, check that out on their website, and I'm sure it'll help. I think we've talked for about an hour now. We should probably wrap up our thoughts on this. Aside from my biggest complaint, which is that the Gleeman had huge shoes to follow with The Witcher and its successful song, Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. The music in this was not as catchy. Aside from that, I actually did really enjoy the 3 episodes. I felt like I was missing something, some kind of context, which was, of course, the 14 books that came before it. I don't think I would not read. I would obviously it's impossible to read 14 books before the next episode, but I don't think I would even bother. I think leave that for the people who enjoy it that way, and I'm glad some people who are fans of the series are fans of the live action show. But enjoy this for what it is. Hopefully it'll be a fun run, and get your fantasy fix streaming. I would definitely recommend this. I'm going to keep watching for at least a few more episodes. What about you, Natty?
It has me. I'm here. I'm here for it. I love the world building. I love the little touches that are and I forgot to mention when I was listing all those people, is it Aiel?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I didn't pick up on,
and the Tinkers.
when they went by. Oh yeah, and the Tinkers. Yeah, and I forgot about them. And there's wolves. But when they were, when Tom cut the guy out of the cage and stuff, I didn't pick up on what that was until he mentioned it. And then I was looking at the body, and I was like, oh, he's actually like longer arms or legs or something. Like they did kind of mess around with stuff. And so I'm
so much flew over my head. I don't even know the things that flew over my head. I love this.
No, you don't even know the stuff that you don't know. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I'm excited, and I hope that it takes up the next 30 years of my life the way that these books did. Oh God.
Yeah.
I'll be dead.
Awful. Judd, how about you?
I'm in. Yeah, I'll watch until they make me throw my remote across the room. Like I'm waiting for that moment, but I hope it never comes. And I hope that I get to, feel wonderment. I think comparisons to Game of Thrones are inevitable, and that moment where Tyrion sees a dragon for the first time fly overhead, like that's what I'm looking for, like all the times with these shows. So, I got it a little bit with Shadar Logoth in the second episode, and I thought the Dark Friend and the way that that whole thing was kind of unveiled was clever and interesting, and I'm in. Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I would like things to look a little cooler, but yeah, I'll shrug. That's okay. We're spoiled. We've seen dragons melt knights. Like we can just shut up and take the samurai swords we're dealt, and it's all right. It's cool. The 14-year-old me is absolutely buzzing, and I'm willing to like let that be and just enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, intrigued.
That's awesome. All right, Lauren, what do you think?
Are
you in?
Yeah. For all the Easter eggs that everyone else that didn't read them is missing. That is what I'm here for. All the little things. But I hope that it lasts. That's my only concern is it not getting the people who didn't read the books, which is most people didn't read the books. So we'll see. And Rand is Hayden Christensen and Ryan Phillippe.
All right.
Philippe. Yeah.
Okay.
Felipe.
So gotta
Felipe.
see more. Yeah, gotta see more of him.
I would love to see weekly Easter eggs listed by you on our fan club. That would be amazing, because most of them I'd be like,
Holy.
what? Who? Where? Names? Yes.
I had 4 quick things.
Please.
Lan and Moraine taking a bath together was
that
an
was-
interesting thing that didn't happen in the books,
No.
that I think gave their relationship depth, because it was an intimacy without sexuality, I thought, that showed that the depth of their bond.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really
There
good.
was that. The burning of the Aes Sedai in the second was a level of brutality that I don't remember, especially that early on in the books. And an article that I had read mentioned that it was kind of a Game of Thronification. Yeah. So, and they kind of held on that for a lot longer than the shot was really on this burning woman, longer than I needed to see.
It
But
was
I
the
understand.
artistic shot.
Yeah, I mean
It was
that was
the artistic shot in the reflection, and
yeah.
we wanted to make you aware that was their artistic shot. Like that
This is it.
That's ours.
Maddie,
That's the one we
You're
got.
complaining about our shots. This is what you get, mister. There was other stuff too, but
There's
that's all I
2
can
more.
remember.
We can't
There's
leave
2
them
more.
out.
Wait, what are they? Come on.
Well, there was the Dark Fiend when she got the knife through the neck. That was not what I wanted. That wasn't it. But I don't remember the other.
When Perrin
sorry.
kills accidentally kills his wife,
man.
that really hit hard for me. That was just like, I don't know if it was the actor portraying it. It was Marcus Rutherford, who is Perrin. Just like the horror of, like, they survived. They had survived the horrible thing that was happening to them, and just swung wide and in such a brutal fashion killed someone he loved so much. I mean, it was difficult because you watch everything from the current lens, right? So you're like, this woman existed to die to give Perrin a personality, in a way. But like, at the same time, there is a lot of genuine emotion that happens, because fantasy violence is just never an issue. Never an issue. People swing swords and axes and shoot arrows into combat all the time. No one ever gets friendly fire. No one ends up getting hurt that you didn't expect to get hurt. So there is some gravitas to this at the same time. So, and honestly, I would be happy if the rest of the series is not full of people getting axed to the sides, but full of that duality of, this isn't exactly what you wanted, but we're making you question what you've come to accept in fantasy.
Yeah.
I really wanted, I was really excited about her because she wasn't in the books.
Yeah.
And she seemed non-binary. Like she didn't fit in with the women's circle stuff. And I was like, oh shit, they're doing something really different. This is going to be really cool. And yeah, I was disappointed with that decision. And maybe that's okay. And I'll just have to live. Yeah, obviously, clearly it's okay. But I like creatively, I thought that decision was not as strong as it could have been.
Now,
so there was an article I read. So the character did exist in the books. Like somebody asked Perrin, like, what if none of this ever happened and you had just stayed in Emmons Field?
There was a girl,
and he
there
said,
was a girl,
but it was the same name.
It wasn't, they weren't married.
No, they weren't married.
Yeah,
he was talking about this is the girl I would have.
He said I probably would have just married.
But
so
I don't think that she died.
No, I think she wasn't. They weren't. I don't think they're in a relationship. I think this was in the book. They were in a
cool
story.
Touch. That's a
they
cool
were just.
I read that.
This was just like somebody I mentioned.
Oh, that's great.
And then in this, they adapted it.
So
that almost makes it better and worse.
Oh, it's. I think it's really interesting because now we can look at this whole show as another turning of the wheel that's different than the books.
Ooh,
I like that.
This can
We're in the
literally
multiverse
be
of
like
madness.
This can literally be like a whole other thing, and all bets are off. Like who we think the Dragon Reborn was in the books just might not be the Dragon Reborn this time.
I love that,
and I think that would be awesome.
One of that opens it up to what you were talking about maybe breaking the binary mold.
I mean, if you want to see the internet explode, change who the Dragon Reborn is, and like it will burn down. Like it will just burn down.
If you do it in a clever way, the way we've built up in the world's greatest podcast just now, I think that because one of the most interesting features of the Wheel of Time is this wheel. It's a kind of story that doesn't get told a lot. It's the Wheel of Fortune thing, right? It's not one in the big archetype of the 7 to 12 different whatever traditional types of stories. It's the one that gets told the least. It's a reincarnation and specifically the Wheel of Fortune. So if you make that as part of the reason for the adaptation and you do it cleverly, like little changes through time, and keep hinting that no, this is what the book's about, I think that could be amazing. Lauren, I think I cut into you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. It was just that was one thing that I noticed when Maureen said the Dragon Reborn could be him or her. I'm like, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, which I watched the video, and the woman on the video was screaming about stuff like that, and I was just like, "What are you so angry?"
Well, this is a good place to do plugs for Non-Pro. We do not scream about things like that. We're just trying to have fun. We enjoy ourselves and we celebrate the things that make us happy. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Twitch account, wherever this is broadcasting, probably on YouTube. Just do everything. Follow us everywhere. Follow Judd and Natty at their podcasts on their websites. Lauren, follow her on the fan club where she's going to do a week by week recap of Easter eggs that I will have just not gotten any of them. You know what? Stay tuned to the end of this. We're going to end right now, but I'm going to tell a weird story that happened to me while we were watching with my family. So this is our goodbyes, but stay tuned and you get a little Easter egg for, I guess we'll post this on Patreon. Good night, everybody, and we'll see the next episode on Friday.
Yay!
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.